On September 6, 1982, the tight-knit village of Craig in southeast Alaska was plunged into shock and sorrow upon learning of a horrific tragedy that unfolded aboard the Investor, a modest 58-foot boat. Among the 8 victims were the Coulthrust family, consisting of skipper Mark Coulthrust, his pregnant wife Irene, and their 2 young children, 5-year-old Kimberly and 4-year-old John. This incident remains etched in history as one of the most heartless and heinous acts of murder in America. Compounding the distress is the unsettling reality that, to this day, the case remains largely unsolved, leaving the possibility that the perpetrator may still be at large in the community. The events unfolded on September 5, 1982, when the Investor, a significant 58-foot vessel, moored near the port of Craig, Alaska. The Coulthrust family was widely regarded as respectable and prosperous, being the proud owners of the Investor. Mark Coulthrust, an adept captain, navigated the vessel with skill. The revelation that he had recently acquired the boat for a substantial sum of $750,000 only added to the perplexity surrounding this tragic incident, then and now. By the age of 20, Mark had established himself as a highly successful fisherman, enabling him to acquire a cutting-edge ship before reaching 30. He proudly declared his involvement in the fishing industry since the age of 16, steadily building a reputation as a diligent and industrious young man. Mark carefully selected his crew for the upcoming voyage, handpicking individuals he had known and trusted for a considerable time, emphasizing the importance of their relationship. Among the chosen crew members were Dean Moon, a 19-year-old football player from Blaine High School, Mark's 19-year-old cousin, Michael Stewart, Chris Heyman, the youngest at nearly 18, and Jerome Keown, also 19. Mark's criteria for selection were clear. He preferred young, healthy individuals with athletic prowess or familial ties, ensuring they were capable of managing a ship of considerable size. Upon the Investor's arrival at the dock, it bore an impressive load of approximately 80,000 pounds of salmon, a testament to Mark and his crew's hard work throughout the week. Mark expressed a preference for trading the harvested fish for goods, rather than engaging in transactions with cash-only industries, highlighting his distinctive approach to business. Mark's birthday on September 5 was marked by a celebration at Ruth Ann's restaurant for the Coulthrust family. Witnesses observed them lingering until approximately 9:30 p.m., after which they settled their bills and returned to their ship for the night. Among the docked vessels at Craig's port, the Decade was positioned closest to the Coulthrust family's ship, the Investor. Witnesses reported a festive atmosphere aboard the Decade that evening, possibly contributing to the lack of visibility regarding an intruder entering the Investor. The last confirmed sighting of the Coulthrust family was when they boarded their ship after dinner. The following morning, the once bustling port of Craig fell silent as concerns arose about the Investor. Over 12 hours had passed since it docked, yet there were no signs of activity. Around 6:30 a.m., a crew member from the Decade noticed the Investor slowly drifting away from the port, revealing that it was not securely docked. Upon investigation, it became apparent that the Investor was adrift, carried by the current. The crew member conveyed that 2 essential lines securing the Investor were missing, sparking suspicion due to their valuable and reusable nature. A responsible captain wouldn't discard them. Additionally, he observed someone in the pilot house whom he initially thought was Mark. The man's height and build resembled Mark's, and upon waving at him, the gesture was reciprocated, dispelling any doubts. Upon discovering the malfunctioned engine of the Investor, some Decade crew members realized that the person in the pilot house wasn't part of Mark's team. It was unusual for a deckhand to navigate the ship away from the dock without a functioning engine. Around 7 a.m., Captain Clyde Curry of the Decade arrived, recalling seeing someone leave the Investor as it drifted away. He described the individual as blonde, of larger build, average height, and wearing a black and red jacket. By 8 in the morning, the residents of Craig had largely forgotten about the Investor, now adrift near Fish Egg Island, a mile away. Unnoticed until September 7, the island remained shrouded in fog. Once lifted, the bustling activity near the port revealed ships preparing to capitalize on the closing salmon season, oblivious to the drifting vessel. Organically, both the community and the decade were acquainted with the investor, anticipating their participation in the departure. However, astonishment rippled through as the locals observed the investor stationary at Fish Egg Island, unmoved. It wasn't until 4 in the afternoon that the denizens of Craig noticed smoke emanating from the investor, still anchored near Fish Egg Island. The initial alarm was raised by Casino, a crew member, who sought assistance. When the casino's crew reached the investor, they encountered a vessel consumed by flames. As the fire neared its demise, onlookers outside anxiously boarded the ship to assess potential survivors. Unfortunately, they were met with a tragic scene. The bodies of 4 individuals, all charred beyond recognition, lay amid the wreckage. The fire briefly subsided, allowing investigators to enter and examine the scene. However, a resurgence of the flames caused delays in both the investigation and the retrieval of the 4 bodies. Autopsies unveiled the identities of 2 victims as Mark and Irene Coulthrust. Yet, a grim revelation darkened the tragedy further. Authorities disclosed that the bodies of Mark and Irene displayed signs of struggle and pre-burning injuries, primarily evidenced by gunshot wounds. This revelation strongly suggested foul play and turned the narrative of this calamity towards more ominous waters. Now, a prevailing theory put forth by investigators and examiners, widely embraced as the most plausible explanation, posits that the murder transpired before the investor departed from the port of Craig. Following the grim killing of those boarding the ship, the perpetrators deliberately set the vessel ablaze, either to mask the crime as an accident or to buy time by diverting the attention of authorities. The astuteness of the killer was evident, recognizing that forensic analysis would swiftly unveil the true nature of the incident as murder rather than a fortuitous mishap. Subsequent reports lent credence to the suspicion of arson, with investigators noting that a ship valued at approximately $800,000 is constructed to resist combustion, barring intentional and well-planned efforts. A deeper probe revealed that the culprits initially attempted to scuttle the ship, intending to submerge it with the lifeless bodies on board. Yet, upon discovering the vessel afloat the next morning, they re-entered, navigated it away from Craig docks to avert prompt local detection, and steered it to Fish Egg Island, where they could ignite it discreetly. The individual spotted by the Decade's crew member piloting the ship and reciprocating the wave was unequivocally identified as the same person implicated in the Coulthrust's murder. His purpose was clear: to guide the ship away from Craig. Remarkably, this entire sequence of events unfolded without the residents of Craig noticing, and those who did observe anything dismissed it, incredulous that such a calamity could befall their tranquil town. After the flames had extinguished completely, rendering the ship harmless, investigators conducted a thorough search, meticulously combing through the entire site. In their endeavor, they unearthed additional bones and body parts belonging to 3 distinct individuals, presumed to be the deckhands who had accompanied Mark on his voyage. What added to the unsettling nature of the discovery was the absence of young John's body. Experts surmised that John's remains had been positioned at the heart of the inferno, reducing him to literal ash with no traces left behind. Queries persisted regarding the peculiar circumstances of John's demise, leaving no discernible evidence in its wake. Until November of 1982, investigators revisited the Craig dock periodically, hoping to uncover any new leads. Simultaneously, they interviewed numerous individuals in an attempt to elicit information that could propel the case forward. Unfortunately, these efforts yielded no new insights, marking the inception of yet another unsolved mystery. The murder case became a focal point for numerous news outlets, with extensive coverage in newspapers and on television. The media and the public clamored for answers, overshadowing the voices of the victims' families who sought solace and explanations. Despite the passage of time since the tragedy unfolded, The perpetrator remained elusive, and the motive behind their actions remained unknown. This chapter of the case concludes, at least for the time being. We invite you to share your thoughts on this matter in the comments below and suggest any other video topics you'd like us to explore.